When I heard the call, it was something that you don't want to hear, but I've been trained for a lot of years in my previous business. We had to train people all the time. I didn't do the training, but I was in there watching, and felt that I was prepared for something when it happened, but found differently going through the process. Rick called man down, and we work with walkie-talkies, radios out there all the time, and first thing I've always been trained to is, it's ironic, the first day I worked at the golf course, I checked to where the AED machine was, and I make sure that light's blinking every day. But I knew where it was, and when Rick said man down, it just kicked in. Just went straight to the clubhouse, grabbed the AED. Manager asked, "Do you know what you're doing with it?" And I said, "Yep." Brought it down. When I got there, it looked like he was choking on something, and it looked like it was just partial. So I pulled that out. Rick pulled his gum out, and at that point, it looked like he was going to need the AED. So I started pulling it out, looking for a razor just to shave, and there was no razor. Started pulling the patches off, and luckily, fortunately for me, Dave came running in and saying, "Hey, I've trained, I'm a trainer," and so I kind of moved out of the way and let Dave jump in, and it was very appreciative to watch the process. I pulled the tape off of him and gave him to Dave, and he put him on.
We were going off to our golf balls, and I looked up, and I could tell that there were more than 4 people around the green. And I go, something's not right. So I ended up telling my buddy who was driving the cart, "Hey, drive up there. Let's see what's going on," because I could see Rick at someone's head, but I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Almost looked like someone sprained an ankle. So I just thought they might need the cart help with that. And my buddy said, "What are we going to do? We can't do anything." I said, "Well, I'm a trained CPR instructor. Let's do the Red Cross. Let's go up and see what's going on." And then when I got up there and I could see that Rick was feeling for a pulse, I went, uh-oh, things aren't good. So then the training just kicked in, and that it was weird that everything almost slowed down, but I could tell it was going fast though. When the training kicks in, you just revert back to it.
I was nervous because I knew him, and I got to know him very well in the 3 years, and it hit me pretty hard because I was right there with him as he was trying to breathe. And that's where it really hit me, because I'd only ever done the talking, walking through of just, here's how you do it, here's how you hook up an AED, but I was so thankful when Dave was there.
I was playing laser tag in Gig Harbor the night before, and a kid was unconscious, and I did not handle the situation well. Like, I went to him, I shook him, which, like, you're supposed to do that to get their attention. But I had Monday night quarterbacked that, and I thought I should have just called 911, which I didn't do. I did get help. He was fine. His dad was a doctor. He just passed out, and he came to pretty quickly. But when Paul went down, I called 911 immediately. I was up in the truck. He was down. He had said to me, I'm lightheaded. And I said, "Paul, sit down," and he just bricked back. I think I just kind of went into autopilot. I knew enough to look for breathing. I'm sure I was scared. I was overwhelmed, but no, I just kind of went into autopilot. I had strong feelings after the firefighters and EMTs got there, and very strong feelings when he was in the hospital. But just watching him fall, at the very least, I thought, gonna need paramedics just for that. When he was on the ground and I was on the phone with 911, that's when I could see he wasn't breathing. Then I remember the dispatch officer saying, "I need more information from you," and I said, I need to start CPR. I remember at one point, another woman came out, and she had offered to take over. I could hear the sirens at that point, and I knew what I was doing was working. One, because I had dispatch on the phone. She was incredible. I was doing CPR too quickly at first, and she actually, when she started counting, I slowed down a little bit. But the other woman, she walked up and she offered to help. And I think if I had to go for even a couple more minutes, I would have swapped out with her. But I thought in that moment, I know what I'm doing is working. Paul would kind of come up and just kind of grasp for air every 45 seconds to a minute. I just took CPR again, and I know what that's called, but I don't remember it. But I knew it was working, and so I didn't swap out with her, but it was supportive to have her there, and she said, I know how to do CPR, I think you're doing the right thing. And the paramedics were just, that's incredible. They work so well as a team. I do remember finishing when they took over, paramedics started CPR, and then they got the AED over, and I walked over to the side, and I've never been so out of shape in my life. I just remember just sitting there and just panting and exhausted and just, it was only 6 minutes and 12 seconds, but I've never felt so out of shape.
I literally left my truck running with the driver's door open and jumped out. And being an ER nurse, I was just like, we have to do something. And I knew that my friend was right behind me, who's also an ER nurse, because we were leaving. And it was right when we turned onto the road that I saw the situation. And her car was much smaller, and I drive a truck, so she knew that something was wrong when I jumped out and started running, and so she did the same.
The initial reaction was to pull over and to jump out of my car because somebody is laying on the ground, don't know why. And when I ran up to the scene, that's when I knew, just looking into his eyes, he needed our help.
The community was really, really responsive. Linda and I went right in. His wife was standing there and hysterical and trying to do what she could. We just immediately rushed in, identified ourselves as nurses and experience in the ER, and Linda and I just went right into work. I've done CPR on many humans, not just in training, being in the hospital, but it was really nice to know that he survived and that we did initiate CPR in the field.
All I could think of looking back is that I have my nurse's hat on. This gentleman needs our help. His wife needs some help. And I am here for a purpose.
I happened to be going to a wedding that day, right after work. And I had texted Dan a few times. And driving up to this wedding way up north, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was really affecting me. My wife's trying to calm me down. I received a text about halfway to the wedding, and it was from Dan saying that Rick's doing better in the hospital. And at that moment, I really had a relief of calm. And then I did have a couple drinks at the wedding.
I absolutely wish I had taken a CPR course sooner. It had been 10 years. Again, I wouldn't change anything because it turned out how we needed it to, but yeah, absolutely. I know for sure when I started CPR, I was actually going too quickly. I know for sure I was actually pushing too hard. But as Paul told me in the hospital, don't worry about that. Better to go too hard than to go too light. If you witness a cardiac arrest, just the first thing, just call 911. Just don't hesitate on that one. At the very least, you're going to have someone there that can help guide you through. Again, I very distinctly remember the dispatch officer counting for me. I was doing the Staying Alive. I was doing the Bee Gees. But I was going too fast. Sorry, it's hard to sing a song when you're doing CPR on somebody, but having an actual 911 dispatcher to help walk you through it. Yeah, I just call 911 first. That's just such an easy place to start. And then you've got resources, and don't overthink that.
Just do what you're trained to do. Take the classes, and that just rely on your training. And that's why you need to take it every 2 years, not because you can't remember it every 2 years and you're going to forget it, but it helps with that instinct of what to do when there's an emergency.
Call 911 and stay with that person as long as it is safe.
You need to help. You need to do whatever you can to you are the heart to that person's brain, and you got to get that oxygen there. So that's what I would say.